tare ture Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha Om tare ture Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha Om tare ture Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha.
Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to Lama Live. At Tara Mandala, we are committed to being a welcoming, open, and safe community for practitioners and students of every culture, race, religion, sexuality, gender, age, ability, and circumstance. I'm Dr. Jean Carroll, and I'm joining you live from Sussex, England, and it's my joy to host this special online gathering with our beloved founder and teacher, Lama Tsultrim Allione. Today, Lama Tsultrim will continue her profound exploration of Machig's bundle of precepts, the 900-year-old text from the great Tibetan yogini, Machig Labdrön. Last time, we began this journey together, and today Lama will guide us even deeper into Machig's nature of mind teachings. We are extremely fortunate to have Lama Tsultrim guide us in this journey, bringing these ancient instructions to life and showing us how they remain fresh, practical, and deeply relevant for the challenges we face today. Whether you were with us last time or are joining for the first time today, today is an opportunity to open our hearts and deepen our understandings of Machig's timeless wisdom. So let's take a breath, settle in, and warmly welcome Lama Tsultrim Allione. Welcome.
Thank you, Jean. So amazing that here we are on different sides of the world, but we feel so close. And good morning to everybody out there in the ethers. Would love to hear where you're coming in from. So you can put that in the chat if you want to. And let's take a moment to raise bodhicitta, our intention to be together today for the benefit of all beings. This is a heartfelt intention, something you really feel. It's not a concept, something to feel, a deep longing to help other beings. Thank you. So this text that I've been teaching on is one of two fundamental texts in Machig's lineage. The other one is the grand poem of Prajnaparamita from Aryadeva the Brahmin. And then this one, which was written down by someone in the mother lineage of Machig Labdrön, a monk named Hakton. And so it contains all the key principles of Machig's teachings. And one of the things that I've become aware of in the last few years is that although we associate Machig with the chud practice and the drum and the bell and all that singing in Tibetan and so on, that according to her, the real point is to recognize the nature of mind, and that those other practices, such as the physical chud practice, the body offering, and so on, are done when you can't actually recognize the nature of mind directly, so it becomes another skillful means to apply. And I think that's really important because I didn't know that for a long time. And I think most people don't know that. They think, oh, Machig Labdrön, oh yeah, the drum, the bell, singing in Tibetan, the body offering, etc., which is definitely part of her teaching, but it's not the main point. And so this text gets at the main point. And so we left off last time with the great ignorance transforming into an inseparability. It's a line. Yerme Timuk Chembo Jur. And that's a really actually interesting term, the great ignorance. I haven't ever seen it used before. And how I understand it is the great ignorance, and it's not marigpa, which is usually the word for ignorance, meaning non-recognition, not knowing. It's timuk, which means actually stupidity. And so the great stupidity is the lack of recognition of our inseparability from the ground of being, the split into dualistic fixation. That's the great stupidity that we all, I guess you could say, engage with or indulge in on a moment-to-moment basis. So let's begin with a little meditation, kind of connecting in with what we saw last time, what she taught last time, which is that all demons come from the mind, and all demons are formed by fixation. And that fixation leads to the great stupidity, the lack of recognition of inseparability, the separation from, or the experience of separation from, the vast space of Dharmadatu, or total space. So let's drop in now and feel the great space. When you look at your awareness with awareness, a great space opens up. A sensation of spaciousness, vastness, openness, and a feeling that there is no problem. Let's let ourselves drop into that space. One way to do it is to turn your awareness, that which is the knowing quality of your mind, to look at itself. Whatever thoughts come up or sensations, again, turn awareness to awareness and rest. Okay. Thank you. So this is what she will continually bring us back to. I'm just gonna, I'll turn on my comments just so I can see if you have any questions. I'll look at the questions later. Happy full moon day to everyone. I was at the beach last night as the sun set and the moon rose. It's such an amazing moment that we have every month of that full moon. And at the ocean, it pulls the tides in even more. It has this sort of magnetizing quality. And so you really notice the power of the moon when you're at the ocean. So, yeah. Okay, let's look at this. Let's continue from the great ignorance that transforms into inseparability through directly cutting through into the understanding of self-liberation. So the next line is Tokme Dutki Jungsul Ni. Tokme is a second kind of demon. Last time we talked about the first kind, the Tokche, which is usually translated as tangible, but I translated it as outer demons because I find the terms outer and inner much more easily understood and descriptive than tangible and intangible. So this is the intangible or inner demons. These are the demons that arise from the mind itself. And so it says, how do they arise? This is the way they arise, inner demons. So one way you can distinguish an outer demon from an inner demon is it something that's arising through the senses, through sense experiences, through something you're seeing, hearing, feeling, touching? And also, she included the word for thinking as an outer demon. In the case of thinking being more like a sense experience, like seeing. Sometimes thinking in Buddhism, or the sort of the function of the mind to conceptualize, is considered one of the senses. And so she includes that, but she also distinguishes it from this one, which is arising in the mind. And so she says, the way intangible or inner demons arise is through labeling mental phenomena as good and bad. Yi yul junsul zangdang nian. So zang is good and nian is bad. So it's like labeling things as good and bad. Oh, that's good. That's bad. You know, we're constantly doing that. We hear about something and we immediately try to decide, is this good or is this bad? Sometimes we could see it as both, but there's that tendency to fixate on, is it good or is it bad? That the mind does. And then Rangi Tokpe Chiwar Nam. So that is Rang Ki. Tokpa is one's own conceptualization. Rang is self, and Tok is by thinking or conceptualizing. Divisions are created. That is this Chewa Nam. So this is how we divide things into good and bad with the mind. we decide it's good, it's bad, and that sort of differentiation process immediately creates a demon. So Tokme Du Senpayin. Tokme Du is the unimpeded demon. Sometimes it's another way that this inner demon is referred to as the unimpeded demon, or the demon that runs on and on. Why? Well, have you ever tried to stop your mind? If you have, you probably know that it runs on and on. And this is the demon of the mind. It's kind of what the mind does. And so, Tokme Duki Tsampayin, the unimpeded demon. This is taught. This is how the intangible or inner demons are created. Rangjun Semla Matokpa, naturally arising mind, or, and this phrase is used several times here, this Rangjung Sem. It can also be translated as spontaneous mind. It's sort of like the awareness that just rises of itself before we branch into good and bad, like, dislike. That's the Rangjung Sen. It's the simple awareness, the spontaneous mind. That the Rangjung Sem Le Matokpa, apart from or except for the naturally arising mind, Ladzang Slaru Zimpadang, good gods, grasping as gods, and so grasping at good things as gods. Dre Nyan Dreru Zimpadang. Dre Nyan is bad, and Dre is demons, or sort of like bad spirits also. Dreru Zimpa, grasping as demons. Yeah. So grasping at bad things as demons. So in here, we have the distinction and definition of ladre. Ladre is a really key phrase in the Chud lineage. It's also a common word in Tibetan, but it's a very interesting word because it's like a hyphenated the good guys and the bad guys. The La are the good guys and the Dre are the bad guys, but it's hyphenating them. So it's saying really that those two things are tied into the same dualizing process. When we think something is really good or when we think something is really bad, it's the same process in the mind that is taking us out of that Rangjung Sem, the naturally arising open mind. So we are grasping at things as good creates gods, and our grasping at things as bad creates demons, which is ladre. So ladre represents the dualistic grasping mind that categorizes experiences into beneficial or harmful. So it's not that these things are external entities. They are ways that the mind divides things, categorizes things. And this is ladre. So the law are the pleasant experiences, positive states, spiritual attainment that we grasp at and want to keep, blissful meditations, clarity, insights that we claim as ours, as our own way, Ranglu. And the Dre are the unpleasant things, the obstacles, negativities we push away, pain, confusion, difficulties that we reject and fear. So in the true practice, practitioners offer their body-mind to the ladre equally, to both, cutting through the chut, it's cutting through the dualistic grasping at the ladre that creates these categories, and into the radical insight that these two are actually the same empty awareness. When you remove that fixation process. So let's try this. Let's see if we can have some sort of experiential experience, I guess you would say, of Ladre. So think about something that's good, that you like, that you want to have. It could be spiritual experience, could be just wanting happiness, something that you really want. And notice the feeling that you get in your body when you are wanting that. Do you feel a kind of tightening? A kind of limiting feeling? And a little bit tied to fear of not getting it? That's what she's talking about. That's the law. And now let's try what we don't want. Think about something that you don't want. Maybe something you're afraid of. Or maybe it's fear of failure, of not being good enough. And as you feel that sensation that you get in your body of what you don't want, notice how that feels. You feel that kind of tightening, that kind of moving away, resistance. Ugh, I don't want that. And do you see how it's similar in many ways? The Dre is to the law, that in terms of how it actually feels experientially. Yeah. So we spend a lot of time being pushed around by our ladre, our hopes and fears. So, yeah. So then the next line is Yit ki redok gyuje nam. So yit is another word for mind. There's several words for mind, like lo is one word, yit is another word, sem is another word. But this is yit, and it's the conceptualizing mind. So yit ki redok. Redok is a very common sort of contrasting set that we have in Chut. Redok Dandrawa, we say in the Chut practice from Namkhanogo Rinpoche, Redok Dandrawa is to be separate from or free from hopes and fears. Redok Dandrawa Semke Di is how you raise bodhicitta, is through separating from hope and fear. But it's interesting that this is a progression, that we've moved from the mind that decides something is good and bad, good or bad, to the ladre, and then from that to hopes and fears. Because once you've got the la and the dre, as you probably felt doing it, you have hope and fear. Right? Hope and fear limit your experience. So you're no longer experiencing that open, vast, self-arising, naturally arising awareness. It's tight. It's tightened down with the distinctions between good and bad that lead to the ladre, that lead to the redok, the hope and fear. So hopes and fears follow the mental labeling of something as good and bad. So it's a progression that usually we don't track. We just suddenly feel hope or we feel fear. But there actually is a process that takes place, which we can notice through meditation, because in meditation, it all slows down so that we have a chance to see it how it is. So this process creates all the hopes and fears that cause the mind to wander. And so that's this line says, Yiki redok gyu je nam. Gyu je nam is all causes of wandering. So all the causes of wandering, of the mind wandering, are hopes and fears, which are formed out of this fixation on good and bad, hope and fear. So the ladre come from labeling things as gods and demons, and this creates hopes and fears, and thus a demon is created by oneself that feeds on oneself, and that is the next line, which is really a cool line. I have never heard this line before, at least not that I've been aware of, but it literally says, Rang dut rang la lok peyin. Rang dut, one's own demons. Rang la, upon oneself, feasts. Or, feasts on itself. So that's really interesting because it shows that these are actually things that we do to ourselves, that this demon, and I like that word feast because it's consuming. I mean, if you've ever been in a state of hope and fear that's very intense, it's consuming. When I got my cancer diagnosis, I definitely had this demon arise immediately. The hopes that it wasn't too bad, the fears that it was, and that process of hope and fear, and then the different tests and what they were saying, it's consuming. It actually eats at you. And she's actually using that term here. Yeah. So, yeah. Then the next line, Tok me du tonpayin. So this is Tok me du. Again, this is the intangible demon, or the demon that runs on, or simply put, the inner demons that are created by the mind. The unimpeded demon, Tsempayin, are taught or shown to be. This is how the inner demons are created, or they're shown to be. Okay. Then we have Rangjun Semle Matokpa. Rangjun Semle Matokpa is, again, this phrase, Rangjung Sem. Remember that one? It's the naturally arising mind. And this is using mind more in the sense of awareness. Even though it's the word sem, it's more like semni, or the nature of mind. The naturally arising mind, lame tokpa, apart from the naturally arising mind, lazang laru zimpadang, good gods, laru zimba, so good god, lazang is good gods, laru zimba is grasping as gods, and so grasping at good things as gods, and dreman, or evil demons. Reru Zimba, grasp with demons. Dan. So grasping at bad things as demons. So that those three lines are apart from or separate from naturally arising mind is grasping at good things as gods and bad things as demons. So there we have Ladre again. So she's going more into this term. And so in her system, the Ladre represent the dualistic grasping mind that categorizes experiences as beneficial or harmful. Hla, beneficial, Dre is harmful. So these are not external, objective spheres. This is made up by the mind. And that's the quality of this demon, the intangible demon, the inner demon, the demon that runs on and on. So there are our own conceptual divisions. And so the La are the pleasant experiences, spiritual attainments that we want to grasp at, and the Dre are the unpleasant. I think we got that point across. So in the Chit practice, practitioners offer their body-mind to both the Ladre equally, cutting through Chit in that way. So that in that way, you cut through dualistic grasping. So imagine now that you have your hope that you felt before, whatever you were hoping for, and your Dre, the what you want to avoid. And if you simultaneously release them, what do you feel? Do you feel an opening of vastness, of freedom? That is Chit. That is what Machig is teaching to do, to cut through that fixation. And then right there, not something that you have to develop, that you create through meditation, but already right there is the Rangjung Sem, the self-arising mind of awareness. So the next line is Yit Ki Redok Gyu Je Nam. The hopes and fears of the mind that cause all wandering. Hopes and fears follow the mental labeling as good and bad in its progression. And then it feasts on itself. So we already covered that. So the sequence is the inner demons arise from our conceptual division of mental phenomena into good and bad. Apart from naturally arising mind, there's nothing else, but we grasp at good things as God and bad things as demons, the Ladre. This creates all our hopes and fears that make the mind wander in samsara. So it's actually our own mentally created demon that feeds on ourselves, that eats us up. The inner demon seems to refer to how this process operates without obstruction when we're caught in dualistic thinking. So this is really a profound sequence to understand how we create our own suffering. We do this, we fixate on it, and then we churn in that cauldron that we have created as it eats us alive. That sounds really dramatic, but it's also true. Okay, so let's see. I just want to see where we are. if you have any questions. I'm not seeing any. If you do have questions, then just put them in the chat, and then occasionally I'll look like I am now. And if I don't see any, I'll continue. Okay. I think this is clear, right? So the last time in Lama Live, I talked about the tangible or outer demons that appear through the senses. And now this time I've talked about the inner or intangible demons that appear in the mind and the process of those occurring. Yeah. I'm glad that you are finding it helpful, Hope. She just wrote, so helpful to name and see this. Thank you. Okay, so now we go into this beautiful line. It says, Chuying Longchen Nangsal Le. So Chuying is the Dharmadhatu, or total space, or basic space. It is what hopefully you experienced in the beginning when I said, what if you let go of your hopes and your fears? Do you feel? Do you have an experience of spaciousness, of vastness? That is the Dharmadatu. That is Dharmadatu. So that's the first word, Chuying. And then Longchen is the vast expanse. Long is the awareness of space. So this is the great expanse, and it's also the name of the great teacher from Tibet, Longchenpa. And then Nangsal. Nangsal is a beautiful word also, and it means the luminosity or the natural clarity. So the sequence is Dharmadatu, great expanse, natural clarity, or from the innate luminosity of the vast expanse of Dharmadatu. So this points to the source or the ground from which all these demons arise. It's like a line that just is like describes the vast expanse. I think a lot of times when people have begun meditation with mindfulness practice of, for example, focus on the breath, which we do also in the Tibetan tradition with shamatha, when we think of meditation in that way of, stop the mind, like focus on something, we don't realize that really where we're going with meditation is not to one-pointedness and like stopping the mind from going around, but what's under that, this vastness that's under it. And she says it here, like such a beautiful line. So it points to the source of the ground from which manifestation arises, not as a cause producing an effect, but as the fundamental space of reality. So the Dharmadatu is not something that's created when we notice it. It's always there. It's always here. So let's just take a moment with that. Somebody has written something. I'm just laughing because somebody said it's better to experience the full moon at the ocean than in a basement. But that's kind of fixating on good and bad. Okay, so yes, this Longchen emphasizes the boundless, vast quality of it, that it's not limited or confined. And then Le is the origination. So it's not a dualistic causation. Rather, phenomena arise from and within this space that's already existed. The very nature of natural clarity or natural luminosity, clarity expanse. So the union of emptiness, tompa, and salwa, clarity, or I think a better word is luminosity, because we have emptiness, like in the sense of that when we break down all of our concepts are empty of what we thought they were. Like if you look at a chair, I'm looking at two chairs and a couch right now. And as I'm looking at those, I have this concept of chair and couch. But when I actually experience them as they are partless particles. And those partless particles are also empty, yet appearing. So they're all space, and yet they're appearing. And that's the salwa, the appearance. So then the next line is Drintok Chiryang Charwa Yin. Dren-tok is memories and thoughts, and Chiryang is whatever or anything or any. Charpa Yin means arise. So whatever memories and thoughts arise, remember this is following that first line, that beautiful line about the Dharmadhatu's Longchen, the vast expanse of basic space. So then what? Saying memories and thoughts or whatever arise or emerges, Pernam, Jamso, Gyome Le. So now it's talking about this Chuying Longchen, Nangsel, the Dharmadatu, vast expanse, luminosity, natural luminosity, memories and thoughts or whatever arise within that. That is, for example, an unmoving ocean, or like the unmoving ocean, or the undisturbed ocean. And then it says, Barlap Latsok Jungwashin. Barlap is waves. And Longpa is, it's Latsopa and so forth. Jungwashin. So this is a beautiful metaphor. What it's saying is that this Dharmadhatu Longchen, this vast space of reality, is like the ocean. But within the ocean, waves arise. But the waves that are rising in the ocean are not any different from the ocean. They're just the ocean in motion. That's a poem. The ocean in motion. And so all of our disturbing thoughts, all of our hopes and fears are really just waves in the ocean. And the ocean is not altered by that. It appears different, like a wave looks really different than the smooth ocean. But is it actually different? No, it's just the ocean in motion. So, Detar Tokpe Kebuyi. Detar, thus, in that way, Tokpa, understanding or realizing, Kebuyi, by the person. So the person who realizes this, so when you realize that the waves in the ocean are not separate, Chitro migo rangshar so sho. So fabrication is Chitro, migo is not needed. You don't need it. You don't need fabrication. So the person who realizes this doesn't need fabrication and lets it rest in its own natural state. So by realizing the waves in the ocean are not separate, the person that realizes that doesn't need to fabricate, doesn't need to add artifice, but can simply let the mind rest in its natural state. So that's not saying like you need to do something. You need to stop your mind from running on and on. It's simply saying that when you realize that all these things that are arising are really not separate from that ocean itself, then you are already free. You don't need to fabricate. You can let everything rest in its natural state. So this is a core Mahamudra principle, this Rang Sar Shok, which is the last three words of that line. Rang Sar Shok is letting phenomena rest in their own natural state without interference. Once the Tokpa realizes, the Tokpa is the realization, the Nangsal, the natural clarity or natural luminosity of the Dharmadatu, the Chuying, there's no need to use fabricated practices or artificial manipulation. Rangsar means in its own place or in its own natural condition where everything is already perfect as it is. This antidote of Ranglu, one's own way, instead of imposing methods of grasping, we simply shok, which means let it be in the inherent perfection of the natural state. So that's a lot of words that sound really good, but let's see if we can actually have an experience of that. So let's begin with allowing the mind to rest. It's turning awareness toward awareness. Feeling the vastness, space. The ocean. And now imagine something comes up in that. You can recall your hopes and fears. And suddenly there's waves in that ocean. But now just look directly at those hopes and fears and see what happens. You're not doing anything with them. Simply recognizing. And then do you feel yourself dropping down into vastness, back into the Dharmadatu, without a fabricated practice? It's simply release. Release is a really good word for this. Okay. I see that we are running low on time. And so, let's see. Let's just keep going a little bit. I'll take you through it. And happy, to answer some questions at the end. If you have some, put them in the chat. So there's no need to fabricate. Just let everything rest in its own natural state. It literally says fabrication is not needed. Let it rest in its own natural state. That's a relief. You don't have to do something. So then, pen no mijong ying sudro. Pen ngo, benefit and harm. Mijong, do not arise. Ying su, into the expanse, they're liberated. So notions of good and bad, of benefit and harm do not arise because they're liberated into space. Ying su dro, like it literally says liberated into space. And that's really important because when we're liberating, we're not just like, oh, I'm getting rid of this. We're letting go. And then that space, that's really our true nature, that's underneath this grasping, actually comes to the fore. It's already there. And then, Chuni Yingne Rangshar La. Chuni is the Dharmata, or suchness itself, or the true nature. Yingne, from the expanse, this is Ying. It's the same word as in Chu Ying or Dharmadhatu. It's space or expanse. Rangshar, naturally arising. La. Since everything naturally arises from the space of Dharmata, Trakto Gatrup Yarmirik. Trakto means partiality or taking sides. Gatrup, rejection and establishment or negation and affirmation. Yarmirik, it's not fitting to do that. It's not fitting to take sides, to label something as something we're rejecting or something we're establishing. That's not appropriate in this sense. All of that is part of the process of leaving the ground and splitting into dualistic fixation. And we are dropping back into that ocean-like vastness and recognizing the waves as just waves. Since everything naturally arises from the expanse of Dharmata, taking sides, rejecting and establishing is not fitting to do. So rejecting and accepting makes sense in this dimension. Gak drup maja rangjung sem. Rejection and establishment, without doing that or not having done that, spontaneous mind. Remember that word? Rangjung sem. So spontaneous awareness beyond rejection and establishment. So that's the end of that section. So what it's saying is, if we can let go of these things, this partiality or rejecting and establishing, this ideas of benefit and harm, then we are in the spontaneous awareness beyond rejection and establishment. Gakchup Maja Rangjung Sem. Rangjung Sem, this spontaneous mind. Rang is an interesting Tibetan word. It can mean self, it can mean innate, it can mean inherent. But here it's inherent. Inherent awareness, Sem in this case. Awareness. So when we're not rejecting and we're not establishing, we're not doing that, then we are in Rangjung Sem, which is a beautiful place to be. So, isn't this amazing? Like, I just find it so, like, just one line just triggers a state of awareness. Each line. Boom. It's really special. So I'll just check and see if there's any questions. I don't think so. Oh, I think there's an issue with the chat. Oh, there's a lunar eclipse now underway. It peaks at 11:11 a.m. today. Somebody just wrote that in the chat. The burning of the funeral pyre that sets the soul free from the body reveals where we've been acting unconsciously and allows the awakening to the power to choose differently. Sahaja, yes. Deborah, thank you for that. Yes, so what we covered today was the intangible or inner demons and Machig's actual definition of how they function. And for me, I am loving this because I have taught this. I've got chapters in my book about it, but to read these actual words in Tibetan, that's as close to what Machig said as we have, and how she defined like the progressions, from our fixations, from our good and bad, into the ladre, and then into hopes and fears, all in the mind doing this. So hopefully we can I just was looking for a minute at the comments. So this week, practice this and see if you can do this release. Notice when your hopes and fears are arising or your judgments, good and bad, etc., and then release into space and allow yourself to feel that vastness which is ever present. So remember that this is absolute truth. Of course, there are things that are actually good and actually bad in the relative sense. We're not saying that you just think everything's just fine, no matter what's happening. It's at a relative level, that's not true. But we are training ourselves to be able to dip into and rest in our true condition, the absolute vastness of our being. And this is very important to learn how to do, to learn this way of dropping our fixation, not like forcing, not in a forceful way, but simply cutting through into what is already there. So, Julie's asking, can we try this combined with a simple PHET uttering? Yes, you can. But PHET needs to be used carefully, should not be used publicly, and not too much, because it actually has a pretty intense impact on the body. Thank you, Carroll, for your gratitude. What's the difference between Dharmadatu and Dharmata? Yes, so Dharmadatu is space, like it's actually the space itself. And Dharmata is kind of like how it is, Dharmata, or suchness. So Dharmata would be an experience that you would have through experiencing the Dharmadatu. Yeah. Okay, so I want to announce a couple of things that we have coming up at Tara Mandala that I think are exciting. And so one is we have a course called the Mandala Method that can lead to certification in the Mandala Method. So this is a whole new program that we are starting, and we're offering certification in it so people can use it with their clients, with themselves, etc. And it's based on the mandala work that I have developed over my lifetime and really began many, many years ago. But it's never really been codified into a process of learning until now. And we did a pilot of this last year, but now they're doing a full-on launch of this mandala method. And it starts October 17th. There's different levels of it. You don't have to take all the levels and become certified. You can just do some of the introductory levels to learn about the mandala. But that starts on October 17th. And then October 11th, we're starting with Lopan Chandra Easton, a 2-year Tara training course. So she did one that was 1 year and really felt it needed more time for people to really sink into each of the 21 Taras. So if you've longed to really know each of the 21 Taras, to know their mantra, what their sort of job is, and sort of their activity, and how you can apply that to your own life, this is a wonderful course to take. And it goes over 2 years. I believe it meets once a month. And then we have September 28th, and this is something I'll be doing, something called Lama Lounge. Hang out with the Lama in the lounge. And so that is the first time this will happen. And it will be also on a Sunday at the same time, but we're not doing Lama Live every Sunday. We're doing it twice a month. So the other Sunday will be Lama Lounge. And this is for people who are sustaining Sangha members. And so it will be a little more intimate because Lama Live is a public forum. Lama Lounge will be a little more intimate for members to have more direct contact. September 28th. And then the multi-level Feeding Your Demons process training will begin, has already begun actually, but it's just begun, so you can still get into it, and that can lead to certification in the Feeding Your Demons method to use if you are a counselor, facilitator, therapist, etc. And also, like the Mandala Method, you can just take the first levels to become acquainted with the process of feeding your teammates. You don't have to do the whole thing. So those are a few upcoming things. So our fall is really in a very dynamic state. And I also wanted to update you on what's happening on the land, which is that the kiln, it's a wood-fired kiln for human cremation in a traditional open-air Buddhist cremation ceremony, is now complete. The kiln itself is complete. The structure going around it is not finished, but the actual kiln itself is finished. It was built by a traditional kiln maker. And so that's amazing that that option is now present, and we'll be talking to you more about that in the coming weeks and months. And then the temple that goes with that, the Chitro temple, or the Peaceful and Wrathful Deity temple, is also now dried in. It's that means that they can continue work all winter. It means that the interior is protected and so can't be damaged by rough weather, etc. And so that's all progressing. And so that's just a little update from the land that I wanted to give you. And I hope all of you will come to Taramandala next year, next spring, summer, and early fall. If you haven't been, or if you have been, you'll come back. A lot of people were there this summer who had never been there and were blown away. Blown away. Like, I've seen pictures, but I had no idea until I came here. So really encouraging you all to make plans to do that. And sending you lots of love on this amazing full moon day. Right now, we are going into the height of this eclipse. And so that's a very good time to practice. It's considered to be the most potent time to practice is eclipses and solstices, that the power of your practice is multiplied by hundreds of thousands. And so that's why we practice during eclipses. So I'm going to go practice right now. And I did practice with you briefly. I hope this was helpful. I loved doing it. I love being with you. And let's pray for the spread of any merit that we have accumulated together to go out to benefit all beings, and particularly beings who are in difficulty and suffering right now, of whom there are many in our world. So let's imagine that all of our merit goes out to them and supports and helps them. Okay, thank you. Lots of love. And Jean will come on now. I think she has some more announcements.
Thank you, Lama.
You're welcome.
Really profound sharing today. And it resonated especially deeply for me coming fresh off of retreat. I was right there with you for every word. So thank you so much on behalf of everyone tuning in live and afterwards. A lot of love for you in the comments. And we're aware that the chat is not working on YouTube today. Sorry about that. We are looking into it, and we will hopefully get that rectified for next time round. So thank you all for tuning in and for your participation and support. And before we close, a reminder that we're launching our very first Lama Lounge, as Lama mentioned, on September 28th. And Lama Tsultrim will be joining us for this inaugural event. This is an exclusive gathering for our sustaining Sangha members, a wonderful and sacred space where we can connect more intimately as a community. The Lama Lounge will take place in our group on Yana, which is Tara Mandala's digital Dharma hub. If you're not yet a member, we'd love to welcome you in. As a member, you get special benefits like Lama Lounge, and you'll be helping to keep these precious teachings alive and accessible. You can find out more on our website, and we'd love to see you in the Lama Lounge on September 28th. And as mentioned, starting in October, we have a special 2-year journey called Embodying the Innate Wisdom and Compassion of the 21 Taras with Lopan Chandra Easton. We meet once a month to dive deep with one Tara at a time, with practice challenges between sessions. It's a spacious and immersive space designed to help you really connect with each Tara's unique energy. And there's the Mandala Method, Journey into the Sacred Masculine, beginning October 17th. You'll work with the 5 Buddha Mandala to cultivate wise action and compassion, transforming difficult emotions into wisdom. All of these offerings are online, so you can join from anywhere. Visit taramandala.org for details, and remember, we have scholarships available to make these teachings accessible to all. You can see all upcoming events on the Tara Mandala calendar page. Follow Tara Mandala on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to stay up to date with our news, and join our mailing list to get updates straight to your inbox. Past episodes of Lama Live are stored on our YouTube, where you can visit them at any time. And now, following the tradition going all the way back to the Buddha 2600 years ago, you have the opportunity to make an offering of dana to Lama Tsultrim. Dana is a Pali and Sanskrit word meaning generosity. Offering dana creates an auspicious connection and is a beautiful expression of the interdependence between teacher and student. Dana directly recognizes the precious gift of the teacher and the teachings, without which one could not practice the Dharma. To offer dana for Lama Tsultrim, please follow the link in the chat now. And we will close with Lama's long life prayer. Whether you're familiar or not, you're very welcome to join in. Om Swasti Machig Labdrön my Yeshiku Jesun Kate Sho Yuzo Zima Jetsun Lama Tsultrim Allione Sho Gute Tak Tenze Trin Grey Gucci. Thank you. And finally, we hope that you'll join us for the next Lama Live on September 21st, when Lopan Polly will be interviewing Chip Conley on the subject of spirituality in midlife. We do hope to see you there. Goodbye.
Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha. Om Tare Tu Re. Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha. Om Tare Tu Re. Mangalam Shri tu re